Practice.
Hi, my name is Shelby. I'm going to be talking to you about India's culture, and here's my audience. Whoops. India's culture is among the oldest cultures in the world, which makes it very interesting to me. Indians have managed to preserve many of their original traditions and customs unlike other cultures around the world. Most just evolve and change as the world around us changes. These old traditions and customs are what makes the Indian culture so unique. Just like in America, the basics of the culture is learned starting within the family. Family is one of the most essential parts of any country's culture. Just like many other traditions in Eastern countries, a collective society is highly valued in India. Indians value the ideas of family loyalty and unity, and the main part of the family consists of several generations on the male side of the family working, living, worshiping, and eating together. This includes the men, their children, their wives, and any unmarried daughters that they might have. Although the wives are essentially supposed to live with the husband's side of the family, it is essential that they still remain close with their immediate family. The idea of joint family still remains a very important idea in India. However, many families vary. Instead of several generations living in one household, many relatives just live close together, most as neighbors, ready to help out their family members when they are in need. It is also very important and stressed to have a male child. Males are treated with more respect than women. They are considered to be dominant, and they are raised to act in such way. They are taught to be very assertive, self-reliant, dominant, and demanding. Women, on the other hand, are taught to be more loving or caring, selfless and family-oriented, and religious. They are expected to take care of the household and to be submissive to the men. The women of the household are expected to go out of their way to please the men. Marriage is another important value in Indian culture. Most high-class families follow old traditions and arrange marriages for their kids. However, most urban middle-class families allow what they call love marriages, where the marriage is not arranged. Inheritance within Indian families vary from family to family also. In some cases, the eldest son acquires most of the inheritance at the time of his wedding and breaks bread with other siblings if he chooses to do so. Some families may require all of the siblings to share equally, although some state laws say that sisters should inherit equally as much as their brothers. This rarely happens with the exception of some Islamic families. In India, certain things are expected of certain people, especially the women. Back in the 1800s and 1900s, it was a custom that women were submissive to the men in their lives. They were expected to stay at home, take care of the children and household, and allow the men to make the money and the big decisions that affected the family. Women couldn't even vote back then. However, now it is very different. With new laws in place, women share the same rights as the men do. They play a very important role in our society. When talking when talking about India and the status of both men and women in their society, most people think of the word patriarchal. Women in India are expected to obey the males in the family. They first obey the father, next they obey their husband, and then the son. When boys are born, they consider it to be one of the greatest blessings. However, when girls are born, there is no celebration, and they feel that it's more of a burden. Men are considered to be dominant over women in every way. Women are degraded, violated, and discriminated against. The cause of this type of discrimination against women begins with the social rules that the Indians follow. Before a woman is married, she is considered to be property of her father. Then, when an arranged marriage is in place, she is considered to be property of the husband. The women are expected to live with their husband and his family and obey their rules. She has no say-so in family members or household matters. Women typically don't work. However, with the poverty in India being as bad as it is, some women are forced to find some type of work to help support the family. India is a very conservative country, and the Indians are very specific about how they dress and how they expect others to dress and act in public. Traditions require many women to hide in public, which means they're not allowed to show their skin, show their hair, or dress to impress any man. Many state officials blame the increase of rape against women on the way they dress and act. Short and exposing clothing is prohibited in India. Indians expect the women to dress appropriately when going out in public, but when they're at home, they're allowed to dress more comfortably. Indian clothing is closely identified with the colorful silk, saris, worn by many of the country's women. The traditional clothing for men is an unstitched piece of cloth that is tied around the waist and the legs. Men also wear loose shirts that are worn about knee length, and for special occasions, men wear a long coat that is buttoned up all the way to their collar and down to the knees. Touching is another thing that Indian tradition advises against. Any kind of unnecessary touching, especially in public between a male and a female, is looked down upon. Kissing is one of the main kinds of physical contact that Indians disapprove of when in public. Most Indians typically stick to the usual handshake as a greeting. Some even put their palms together with their fingers pointing upwards and say namaste as they greet someone. Indian manners and etiquette tips also comprise not speaking ill or criticizing the country or its people openly. The natives would clearly take offense to it. You would also never address an elderly by their first name unless they allowed it. It is advised that you call them sir or madam instead. With younger generations, you can choose to be more informal. It's also considered disrespectful in India if you swear in public. Indians are also very specific about their shoes. Most of them wear flip-flops or floaters because it's convenient for them in that country, and they expect visitors to take their shoes off at the door. It is also considered disrespectful if you do not do so before entering someone's house. This also applies to your own house, and also in the temples. Most of the time, there is someone standing on the outside doors of the temples to take your shoes for you. Indians celebrate several different holidays and hold different festivals throughout the year. Diwali is one of the most important holidays in India. The festival gets its name from the row of clay lamps that they use to light up in front of their homes. The lights symbolize the inner light that protects them from any kind of darkness. This festival is held in October or November. They also celebrate Republic Day, which is on January 26th. And one of the other most important holidays is the birthday of Gandhi. He was an Indian leader who ultimately helped India gain its independence. He is considered to be a father of the nation, and this day is celebrated on October 2nd. India is very different from the United States, and it was interesting to learn about their different traditions. I would even love to visit India one day in the future to get first-hand experience on what it's like there.